Weather brought to you by Zions Bank, your business banking home. We do have a nice drive in progress on the Valley freeways. No accidents or delays there, but we do have the final cleanup of an earlier crash with injuries in South Salt Lake. This is almost gone. Main Street at 2400 South. Diamond Rental has more than the equipment you'll need for your next project. They also provide top-notch customer service, 11 Wasatch Front locations, and the expertise to help you get your job done. KSL Weather, hazy skies are going to stick around for a little bit longer, but we'll start to see some sunny skies coming in by the weekend. Today, we are looking for a high of 88 degrees. That drops to 86 for tomorrow, and another drop in the temps, 83 for Saturday. Right now, partly cloudy skies, 77 degrees in downtown Salt Lake City at KSL Newsradio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsradio.com. This is Utah's all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic, a new conversation.
All right, here we go.
On KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM. Back to School with Dave and Dujanovic, a live 1-hour special to help kids cope. Here's Dave Noriega and Debbie Dujanovic.
We want to make sure we're welcoming our Facebook family. We're simultaneously broadcasting this, not only on the radio, but also on Facebook, on KSL News Radio's Facebook page. So thank you so much for joining us. Feel free to engage in this conversation and post your remarks on this live Facebook broadcast as we talk to leading experts across the Valley on just a wide variety of issues, Dave, that are facing families right now as they put their kids back to school for the new school year. And we know students from our Facebook posts that we've already gotten as we launched this town hall, they're struggling already to keep pace because classrooms shut down for COVID. So we're going to, in a moment, get a live leading education expert on the line to tell us as parents, what can we do tonight to start to figure out where our kids are struggling?
There was learning loss. There was a difficulty in being able to teach and keep up with the curriculum. I can tell you, I saw it in my family. We were struggling. And trying to keep up with the standards, that was a setback for us. So we're days into the new school year. It's brand new, fresh. I've got 3 kids in school. So I want to know, what do we do specifically for those kids that have kind of fallen behind?
Let's bring on JD Talbot. He's with the Granite School District. And JD, your title is so long. Why don't you just give it to our listeners over the air right now so we know exactly what it is you do with the Granite District and with families?
All right. Thanks for having me. Yeah, my title, I am the director of the Family and Community Engagement Department.
So one of our Facebook listeners or Facebook followers on our KSL News Radio Facebook page posted this last night, and I think this goes to will help us lead into the tips that we can give parents. But Chad said, I'm worried about the amount of education they all lost last year. JD, I bet you that's what a lot of parents are worried about.
Yeah, parents and educators alike. There's no doubt about that. I think, with COVID, we've experienced, there's no doubt, there's no question that there's that learning loss there. But I think it also, the fact that we're having conversations like this is a positive that came out of it. I think there's no greater time for parents and educators to really form solidified partnerships around student learning. And we have to amp up those interactions that we have with parents and educators, not just do our typical back to school nights but we need to be talking about the academic and the social emotional specifically and plan together, like how are we going to meet the needs of each one of these students individually?
You mentioned not just leaving it to that once a quarter parent teacher conference. What would be an appropriate amount of interaction? If I have questions, can I send a teacher an email, or is that going to overwhelm them if I send them an email once a week?
Well, I think the best thing to do is I think we build partnerships, we build relationships all around communication. So I think it's establishing with your teacher and maybe that's a back to school night conversation. If they don't give you that information to say, how do we want to communicate back and forth about my child, then you ask for that. And so what is the preferred way to do it? Some teachers may text, some teachers may use these different educational apps like Class Dojo to communicate. And I think the amount of communication depends a lot on where your specific child is.
JD Talbot is with the Granite School District, joining us live on the line for our special town hall, specifically right now talking about what we can do to recognize where our kids may need extra help. And let's get into this question from one of our listeners, JD, and they really want to know what's one thing, and maybe it's the first thing that they can do or parents can do even tonight to start to help their kids, particularly if they are maybe falling behind in a subject. And it's only the first week of school, but what can parents do to kind of identify what the problem areas are for their kids?
Well, to identify the problem areas is obviously that communication with your teacher. But I also would say I would have a designated time every night where you were talking to individual kids about how they feel about school, not just from an academic standpoint, but from social emotional and figuring those things out. But I think the very most important thing you can do, especially for elementary kids, is kids need to read every night. And we've heard this for a long time, right? Like read 20 minutes a night, read 30 minutes a night. But I think more importantly than just reading, like read with your kids, ask comprehension questions, have kids write responses, or ask one question and have them write a response and go over that writing. All of those little things that you can do can really help get a kid back into that routine and that they missed out on last year of going through of that learning. And I think it's a great opportunity too to just spend quality time with your kids.
On Facebook, the Long family posted their concerns for their child who's in special ed, that he's only going a few hours a week. JD, are there options across different school districts to make sure special ed kids aren't getting left behind or just being told to stay home in this pandemic?
I really couldn't speak to the different districts and the options, and I couldn't even speak to the options for our district. I'm just come from the standpoint I know that there's resource out there, whether there's kids in special ed or not. One of the questions I get asked a lot about is, hey, if my kid needs extra help, and again, not necessarily a special ed kid, but any student, my kid's behind, are there resources to get help? And I would say, yes, there are. And those resources differ from the area you live and also the school you go to. So some schools have robust after school programming where there is tutoring, there is social emotional development opportunities. So I think it's just those kind of questions are really hard to talk about in general terms because they're very specific to students and to programs and districts alike. So
one of our Facebook questions comes from Sharon, and she said schools are not telling parents that their child has or has not been exposed. What's going on right now? Is it similar to last year where we'll receive an email and say, hey, your child may have been exposed? What's going on right now?
Yeah, that communication is and I can only speak to the protocol that we're following here in Granite, and it's the same as a year ago. Granite is working daily with the health department, with our nurse team here in the district office, and getting that communication out. So if there is an exposure, now obviously some of the rules have changed as far as with mask wearing and distancing and all that kind of stuff, but that communication, to the best of my knowledge, is still happening in our district.
We have one other question I want to get to. JD Talbot is with the Granite School District. We're talking about what parents can do even as early as tonight to help their kids get back to school and get them off on the right foot. And JD, that has to do with maybe some people consider the tougher subjects, the math and science. How do parents address that? I know when my kids were asking me to help them with math, they just get a blank stare back, and I'd say, look, I'm a writer, I'm a journalist, I don't know how to help. Are there resources available at the school that can help kids with these tougher subjects that are maybe quite over the parents' heads?
Well, yeah. Well, there's always the online tools, the Khan Academies and all that kind of stuff. But I would encourage any parent that's feeling that way to reach out specifically to the school and figure out what resources are there, because a lot of our schools have those resources in place, and also to communicate those concerns directly with the teacher. If you feel like your kid's behind in math, or you're having a hard time supporting a kid in a math or these subjects that that we're not every parent is comfortable with supporting their child in, to have those conversations, because there are resources out there, but also to explore the Khan Academies and those type of apps that can support kids. Another huge support that I think is probably being underutilized right now is a lot of teachers, because of last year, have that support virtually. So they'll post virtual supports for their students
Videos
that the parents might not know about.
Yeah, videos. That's a great tip. Thank you so much, JD Talbot with the Granite School District. Straight ahead, we've got the medical director of pediatrics of Intermountain Healthcare live on the line to answer your questions about the COVID-19 vaccine. Where is it at? When is it going to be available to younger kids?
Dave and Dujanovic.
Tim and Amanda here with breaking updates, mornings from 5 to 9.
Then from 3 to 7, it's Jeff Kaplan and his Minute of News.
We're all on KSL Newsradio.
Utah's all day.
Hey, Goose. Can anyone hear me? Can we do a breaking news right after this? The Pentagon is saying that a number of service members.
What about our Afghan partners left behind? 3 and 4 times a day to KSL Newsradio. It'll come down to a wire because all-day companion for news.
Bringing you breaking news now, the latest from Kabul. CNN now reporting that the Pentagon is saying that there were, quote, a number of U.S. service members killed in that attack at the airport. And we know that there was another explosion as well at a hotel.
Fox News is giving even more specifics, saying that 4 Marines have been killed, 3 more injured. A heartbreaking update. We continue to just see this tragedy unfold. But again, the Pentagon reporting that a number of U.S. service members have been killed in this bombing at the Kabul airport. 4 Marines killed, 3 injured, according to Fox News. They're citing U.S. officials. But this is even, again, it's getting worse. We've seen reports up to 13 people have died, dozens wounded in this attack.
And we know it was an explosion this morning at the main gate of the airport at Kabul. We also know that there was reports of a second explosion at a hotel near the airport. What we understand happened at the explosion, after the explosion, according to numerous reports from the national media, is that gunfire erupted after the initial explosion at the airport there. So again, all of these details are still somewhat murky, quite honestly, but we are hearing reports now from CNN and also Fox News saying that there are a number of Marines killed. CNN, of course, reporting that a number of U.S. service members, so they're not quite as specific as Fox News, have been killed in that Kabul attack. We're continuing to follow this developing story here on KSL News Radio.
Whether you're going on vacation or getting groceries, if you don't make a list, chances are you will forget something. The same is true in retirement. If you want to make sure you haven't overlooked anything, Mike Stevens at Capital Wealth Advisors can help. Mike has a checklist to help you find out if you are on the right track for retirement. Take the checklist challenge. If you can check all the boxes on the list with confidence, you may be ready for retirement. If not, Capital Wealth Advisors can help you address any potential costly mistakes. For the free checklist, go to retireutah.com. That's retireutah.com. See if you've got it right. Take Mike Stevens at Capital Wealth Advisors Checklist Challenge today. Get it at retireutah.com. And for more on retirement planning, tune into Mike's radio show, Retire Utah Radio, Saturday mornings at 5. firm offers insurance services. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
The vibes are back. The Utah Arts Festival returns August 27th through 29th at Library Square. Take the whole family for music, art, food, film, and more. Tickets at uaf.org.
It is difficult for me to be out of a truck and to trust others to do my work at my clients' homes for me. Before techs can wear a Whipple Service Champions uniform, they must go through an extensive onboarding process, including learning the Whipple way, which is our unique way of serving. Voted best place to work, it's good business to treat team members like we treat our best customers. Want to see a Whipple Service Champion in action? Take $100 off any service, repair, or replacement of $300 or more. If it's in your home, we can do it. Plumbing, heating, air conditioning, electrical, and drain cleaning. I know it's true. Our technicians will do a much better job for you than I ever could as one guy in a truck. With the help of our Whipple systemized approach, call takers, dispatchers, installation coordinators, office staff, and inventory system, you'll get fast, hassle-free service. Call Whipple Service Champions at 801-444-FAST.
Whipple they come, plumbing troubles all gone.
For emergencies, when you call today, we come today.
Attention neuropathy sufferers.
Continuing to follow breaking news, we just got word out of Kabul from the Pentagon that U.S. service members have been killed in that Kabul attack. We're continuing to follow that developing story. That is information reported now by CNN. The news just keeps getting worse out of Kabul. When we first got word of the explosion this morning, we weren't certain of any injuries, let alone numerous deaths. We now know that a number of U.S. service members have been killed in that Kabul attack.
The State Department did release and said all U.S. embassy personnel have been accounted for. But again, this update, Marines killed, others injured in the attack. That is the first reports that we have seen where U.S. Citizens, U.S. military members have died in this attack.
Our newsroom currently reaching out to our congressional delegation. We're trying to learn more about those who've been injured and killed in Afghanistan this morning, and also trying to determine if the deadline to withdraw from Afghanistan completely still stands, or if the president will take a different course of action after today's developments.
Back to School with Dave Noriega and Debbie Dujanovic.
We're continuing to follow that. Rest assured, the moment we hear anything new, you will be the first to know. We will also anticipating a Pentagon briefing as well, and we will take you there live the moment it happens. Continuing our back to school town hall, because this is also a very important issue right now for a lot of parents. Heading back to school, sending their kids in, and sending their kids back to school in a pandemic. Dave, we posted a question to Facebook and our KSL News Radio Facebook page. And a lot of parents, quite frankly, are worried about their kids contracting COVID at school, especially in light of not a lot of kids wearing masks in all the districts and the fact that younger kids can't get vaccinated yet.
Yes, and one of the things that we have learned and what school districts have done is they have opened up the possibility or the ability for parents to educate their kids remotely, to keep them home and still in a very similar fashion to what they did last year whenever everyone was sent home, to still get that education. So there has been some great progress for kids that want to stay home, that don't feel comfortable going back into the classroom.
Dr. Neil Davis, he's the medical director of pediatrics at Intermountain Healthcare. Good morning, and thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
A lot of parents were saying that they're quite concerned about the progress of the vaccine trials for kids. What do we know about those trials right now?
Well, as you already know, the vaccine is approved under emergency use authorization for kids that are 12 and up. And that is super important. And to be honest, one of the most important things we can do to protect younger children is to make sure that everyone is stepping up and getting the vaccine who is eligible for it. Related to your question, for kids that are under 12, the FDA has also been very careful about accumulating data to make sure that when a decision is made, that things will be safe and effective. And I don't know of a particular timeline right now. I think people are still sorting through that, but I am grateful that the FDA is being very thoughtful about it.
As we've been learning more, and as the Pfizer vaccine specifically moved from the emergency authorization use to full authorization from the FDA, we learned a little bit more. They had more data, and they found that the effectiveness of the vaccine was still over 90%. It dropped a little bit from 95% down to 91%. Do we have any idea how effective the vaccine has been for those kids that are eligible, those 12 to 18-year-old kids?
Yes, we do know that the vaccine has been effective. That's part of the review, of course, for the emergency use authorization. And we know, especially important, that the vaccine does prevent hospitalizations, severe illnesses, and death. And we know that those things are true for the population at large, and they definitely apply to those 12 and up that can get the vaccine.
How serious have the cases been for kids that are getting COVID right now?
You know, there's some interesting principles here. It is still generally true that children and youth have less severe effects from the virus, from the coronavirus. It's also true that some kids go on to have difficulties, and that we have had many kids in Utah hospitalized. In addition to that, it's important to remember that some of those post-COVID syndromes, the multiple inflammatory or the multisystem inflammatory syndrome that affects children, has impacted Utah as well. Primary Children's has hospitalized around 100 kids with that. And that's important to know. So it is still true that there's less impact on children and youth than the general population overall, but the impact is still real.
Dr. Neil Davis is the Medical Director of Pediatrics at Intermountain Healthcare. He's joined us for this very special town hall where we're asking him your questions. Many of those posted on the KSL News Radio Facebook page. And Dr. Davis, a lot of parents did express concern about sending their kids, particularly those who are immunocompromised, back to class in classrooms that they're not required to wear masks. What's your advice for those parents?
Oh, that's such a difficult question, and it's one that we have in clinic almost every day, and those are really valid concerns. It's hard because we know children thrive better at school, and it's also hard because we know that masking at school worked, especially for those kids under 12 that aren't eligible for the vaccine. The elementary school kids last year did awesome, and they learned, and they were able to be in school with masks. And we saw very low transmission in our schools. So it's very hard to be in a situation right now like we have. Generally, what I think the way to think about this is to think through the risks and benefits of every individual family situation. A child wearing a mask himself or herself, even if others aren't, is still a useful thing to do and can provide some protection. And so families have to weigh out, what are the different risks, benefits, and make a good decision. I think it's a good idea to talk to their family's doctor, to the child's doctor, and weigh through that together.
At what point do parents need to take a child to their doctor if they suspect they have COVID?
That's a great question. I think it is always a good idea to call into the office and run it through run questions by the staff so that people are comfortable. As a general rule, what we look for in children is if they're really having difficulty breathing. and not just nasal congestion, but more difficulty breathing in the chest. That's definitely a red flag. Other things would be prolonged days of fever. Fever continues on after several days. Again, I think it's okay for parents to call in and talk with the teams. There are capabilities now in nearly every office to do virtual visits, and then we absolutely will see kids when they're sick. Absolutely. That's what we're here for, to step up and see those kids and help make the right choice in their care.
Dr. Davis, thanks for joining us. Dr. Neil Davis, Medical Director of Pediatrics at Intermountain Healthcare, and we appreciate your expertise.
Straight ahead, continuing this important conversation and posing your questions, parents, to an expert, a psychologist with Huntsman Mental Health, on how to help your child cope with back-to-school anxiety, and also to recognize whether it's just more than anxiety and perhaps your child is experiencing depression.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Ricky Meese, and we do have breaking news at this time. The U.S. Press Secretary John Kirby now confirms a number of U.S. service members were killed in today's attack at the Kabul airport. He also tweeted that a number of others are being treated for wounds. We also know that a number of Afghans were killed or injured. We're still awaiting an official briefing from the Pentagon. The explosions at the Kabul airport in Afghanistan this morning brought evacuations to a halt. Army veteran Brandon Wayment did a tour there, and he tells KSL News Radio's Dave and Dujanovic the Kabul airport isn't like an international airport.
Kabul is like the Logan or the Woods Cross airport, very small, one runway, one plane at a time.
Wayment says anytime there's a threat, the airfield shuts down, and he believes all operations in Kabul will be shut down for a while now. Demand for a horse dewormer is growing amid claims online that it could prevent COVID. Now people are taking the dangerous drug, and the FDA is putting out a warning saying, you are not a horse.
At feed stores around the country, demand for the dewormer ivermectin is through the roof. Not the human version, but the horse version that is more readily available. A feed store in Las Vegas putting up warning signs that it's not safe. One customer saying he and his wife have been taking it, and their only side effect is they're blind when they wake up in the morning. Dr. A.J. Manship is a horse doctor. He says the animal version of ivermectin is extremely dangerous if misused in horses and humans.
Neurologic disease, so seizures, coma.
Alex Stone, EBC News.
Your money at this moment. The Dow is taking a tumble. The markets are all down, whether it's the Dow down at 65 points with sitting at 35,341, the S&P down 11 points, and the NASDAQ is down 30. Coming up, a nice weekend is on tap. KSL Weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:32.
KSL is expanding the news and expanding inside sources.
Catch a full hour of news at noon and an expanded Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson from 1 all the way to 3
on KSL News Radio.
Hi, Doug Wright, and if you're looking for the very best bed you can buy at an amazing price, it's time for you to visit your IntelliBed store today because their spectacular IntelliBed Labor Day sale, it's underway, where you can save up to $1,500 on a luxury mattress from IntelliBed's signature collection. Only IntelliBed is made of the revolutionary gel matrix. You get the world's only bed that is firm and soft at the same time for the best and most comfortable sleep of your life. And you can get this great special at any IntelliBed store, Fashion Place, University Place in Orem, Riverdale, and in Logan. Or you can simply call 888-435-2339. That's 888-GEL-BEDS with a Z, and talk to one of their great sleep specialists. Don't miss this opportunity to get the bed you know you want. The bed that in our home we have enjoyed for years. It's an IntelliBed.
You've done the things you're supposed to do. You know, the big plan. You got married, bought the little fixer-upper, had your 2.5 kids, and life is grand. Until it's not. So if something happens to you, who's going to take care of your kids? What's going to happen to them? Who takes care of that fixer-upper and everything in it? That's where estate planning helps. Have you thought about a will and trust? Look around at your life. Maybe it's time for that plan as well. Don't let a judge decide for you. You need your own estate plan. Call to schedule your free consultation, and VF Law will give you $200 off your estate planning. Initial consultation with VF Law can be done over Zoom, the phone, or their attorney can come to you. Go to utestateplanner.com and register for the live event August 24th to find out more about estate planning. Or call VF Law and schedule your free consultation. For more, visit VF Law at utestateplanner.com. That's utestateplanner.com.
Are you one of the millions of homeowners who haven't refinanced yet? If so, I'm here to tell you it's not too late. Hi, I'm Wesley Hogan with Westland Financial. Although the lowest rates may be in our rearview mirror, as the economy recovers from the biggest economic shock of our lifetime, rates still remain near historic lows. In fact, with the dramatic increase in home values, this may be the perfect time to put that new home equity to work. Take advantage of our cash out refi program and pay off high rate credit cards, car loans, or other high interest rate debt. Or finally make those home improvements you put on hold for so long. Best of all, we can do this with no closing costs. That's right. Whether it's a conventional, FHA, or VA loan, we'll pay for your title, settlement, lender, and recording fees. So call Westland at 888-455-3669. That's 888-455-3669. It's the biggest no-brainer in the history of mankind. 888-455-3669.
NMLS number 3304. Not all loans apply. Equal housing lender.
Even before the pandemic, 1 in 5 American adults experienced some form of mental illness, depression, suicide, prescription opioid misuse. Utah isn't immune to our share of challenges, but there is hope. We need to take action to keep our loved ones safe. That's why KSL has teamed with the University of Utah Huntsman Mental Health Institute to bring you hope and help you fight. It's Healthy Mind Matters. Find out more at healthymindmatters.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Zions Bank, your business banking home. We do have a new accident northbound I-15 just after 2100 South, but everybody is out of traffic on the left shoulder. It's actually at the 1300 South ramp. You're not going to see any kind of backup or delay. The rest of your Salt Lake County freeway is also seeing a good drive with good speeds and no crashes. Take control of your financial future at the Women in the Money Utah Financial Empowerment Conference, Friday, October 8th, in person and online. Limited seating available. Register today at womeninthemoney.org. KSL Weather. An expected high today of 88 degrees with a very slight chance for showers. Tomorrow, sunny skies return, but slightly cooler. 86 for the high, then a very mild 83 degrees for your Saturday. Right now, fair skies in downtown Salt Lake City, 81 degrees at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's all-day companion for news.
Back to School with Dave and Dujanovic, a live 1-hour special to help kids cope. Here's Dave Noriega and Debbie Dujanovic.
It's been a great town hall. We're learning all kinds of information from the experts, answering your questions, parents, about getting your kids back to school and getting them launched into the 2021 school year on the right foot. Now, as kids are going back to school, I think they're probably facing some tough challenges. And Dave, you're a dad of many who are back in school now. I mean, I think kids always worry about things like bullies, and maybe they're worried about wearing a face mask that their parents told them to wear, but nobody else in class is wearing them.
Yeah. I can tell you right now, at least in my family, it's the usual suspects of problems, right? It's not so much COVID and face masks as it is just the regular problems that come with school, right? I mean, who am I hanging out with? Who am I eating lunch with? Am I going to have an easy class? Is this going to take a ton of time? How do I manage it all? Sports, all of that stuff. And that can add a lot of pressure to kids. And we know that last year was very, very tough on kids as far as an anxiety and depression situation. We saw the numbers skyrocket, and kids really struggled with anxiety and depression. One of the things that I've loved in Utah is we have what's called a Safe UT app. It was launched several years back, about 2015. And what You know what? Let's bring on an expert, Dema Ollerton, who joins us right now, clinical mental health counselor and a Safe UT supervisor. Dema, thanks for joining us. Can you give us a little bit of an overview of the purpose and of the Safe UT app?
Absolutely, and I'm happy to be here. So Safe UT is a no-cost, 24/7, 365 service that's confidential, where you can send in a text and within 2 minutes or less chat with a licensed counselor. Now that is, just to clarify, it's not a volunteer. It's a career professional that has done therapy and has training in crisis intervention. We talk to folks about all sorts of crisis. We say any size crisis, anytime. And Dave, I think you're so right with the usual suspects of stressors for kids going back to school. I mean, we're seeing the same concerns about, the social pressures of school and bullying and suicidal thoughts. And so the app is a really nice way for not only kids to text in, but also for parents and teachers, concerned loved ones that just want to get a little bit extra support of how to support the teen or the youth in their lives with some of these issues.
Dema, I was always worried that my kids were talking to somebody else about information that I would like to know so I could also intervene and help my child as their parent. Do parents get to find out about, maybe some information if their kid does go into reach out on the UT app, Safe UT app for a crisis counselor? Do you notify parents if the child needs, additional counseling?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. That is such a common concern, and I think a well-placed concern, right? Because there's so many things that our kids could get into online. So it's confidential. However, if a child were feeling like they need some extra support outside of just a brief chat, if they're in a major crisis, or if we just think, hey, we need to get you some counseling, well, depending on the situation, we'll encourage them to talk with parents. We will call school or parents if we need to, if it's sort of those, imminent risk, sort of life-threatening situations. But really our goal is to connect kids with their support. So even though it seems isolated and individualistic to text in, a lot of the work we're doing with youth is, you can trust your parents. They care about you. We know it's hard to talk with them. Here's some ways to talk with them. Here's some ways to break the ice. And again, parents can text in too. We're always welcoming parents to write in.
Another aspect of the Safe UT app that I just think is fantastic is it has what's called a submit a tip. So that if you see a friend that is struggling, is that where kids could reach out and say, you know what, I'm worried about so-and-so?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a really nice feature where, again, it's confidential and you can send in, hey, I'm worried about, Joe, I heard him talk about wanting to die in class. And that gets sent to our counselors and we assess it for more information and for level of risk. And then we send it straight to the school. So the principal, counselor, school resource officer, usually some of the main contacts that view the tip instantly and then can work on getting that child some help.
Dema Marie Ollerton is a clinical mental health counselor with the Safe UT, or she's also the Safe UT app supervisor. She's on the line with us live right now as we continue to help parents launch their kids into the 2020 school year. So, Dema, I have a quick question for you, and I'm sure I'm going to keep the question quick because the answer is probably going to be longer and should be. How do we spot anxiety in our kids as they head back to school? And then what if it's actually depression?
That's such a good question and something to keep on mind, even if you have a kid that you think they're happy, they're well adjusted, they're pretty calm. I kind of always say, assume that they're experiencing some sort of stress, right? And anxiety is a normal human reaction. Whether it becomes a clinical issue is something to maybe screen with a doctor or a therapist, but start looking for any sort of changes in behavior. If they stop doing things that they liked doing, before, if they are more irritable and upset, if they are, changing their sleep. So if they're staying up really late, or if they are sleeping in for a really long time, if they talk about, frequent stomach issues or any sort of other physical, like, oh, I'm not feeling so good, having physical symptoms. And it seems like it happens around, the Sunday night before school starts or in the mornings before going to school. Some of these things just kind of in a pattern could indicate that maybe there's something going on. But ask, when it comes down to it, just have those conversations of, hey, have you ever heard of anxiety or depression? And what do you think it means? And how do you feel when XYZ happens? Just have those open conversations with them.
Before we let you go, we want to mention that one of our Facebook followers posted this question to our Facebook page last night. And he said he's a parent worried about kids being bullied for wearing masks. I mean, I guess the bullying could go both ways. And kids have been bullied for so many years, even way before COVID. But how do we approach that conversation with our child to ask them, are you being bullied?
Yeah, I think it's such a great question and something that we really can help with on Safe UT. So I'd encourage that parent and any others to just write in and text with some of our counselors, because we could take more time to delve into some problem solving. For right now, I would say, again, it's being aware that the bullying is happening and talking to kids about, how do you feel wearing a mask? Is it awkward? Is it the cool thing? Every school is different. Every group is different. And just get a sense of, let them do a lot of talking of what are masks seen like at your school? How are kids treated that wear masks, or that kids that don't wear masks, how are they treated? And how are you involved in those things? Those kind of questions. And of course, tailored to age. But I think those open dialogues where maybe you have an open-ended question and let them do a lot of the talking can really bring a lot of information out.
We appreciate you joining us, Demma Ollerton, clinical mental health counselor and Safe UT supervisor.
Straight ahead, we're going to take a deeper dive at the physical well-being of students. Do you have any couch potatoes at home, Dave?
I don't want to sell anybody out here.
After a year of online learning, maybe we have kids that are just a little bit too couch potato right now. Well, we're going to get a PE specialist on the line straight ahead to tell us how to get our kids active.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Tim and Amanda here with breaking updates, mornings from 5 to 9.
Then from 3 to 7, it's Jeff Kaplan and his Minute of News.
We're all on KSL Newsradio,
Utah's all-day companion for news.
Everybody knows Cache Valley has the most blissful bovines in the universe, and it's high time to celebrate. Head to Logan, Utah for the first ever Cache Valley Cheese and Dairy Festival the Saturday of Labor Day weekend. Free samples, live music, food trucks, demos on butter churning, tasting cheese, creating charcuterie boards, and you can even blow an alpenhorn.
A what? Oh.
Loosen your belt for a delicious ribeye steak fondue dinner complete with cheesy potatoes, of course, other good stuff in cobbler with locally made ice cream for dessert. Amazing! Get moving, CacheCheeseFest.com. While you're in Logan, enjoy 20-plus stops on our self-guided foodie trek, great restaurants, and comfy hotels. We've got hiking and biking and golfing, live music, and comedy, too. Head to Logan, Utah for the first ever Cache Valley Cheese and Dairy Festival the Saturday of Labor Day weekend. ExploreLogan.com.
Paid in part by Utah Office of Tourism.
You take steps to stay healthy when at the pharmacy picking up vitamins or filling a prescription.
May I help you?
Take another healthy step right now and ask the pharmacist how Prevnar 13 can help protect you from pneumococcal pneumonia, a potentially serious bacterial lung disease. If you're 65 or older, a trip to the pharmacy is a lot more pleasant than a trip to the hospital because of pneumococcal pneumonia. Help protect yourself with the Prevnar 13 pneumococcal 13-valent conjugate vaccine, diphtheria CRM197 protein. Prevnar 13 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 13 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Prevnar 13 does not protect against all strains of the disease. Stop by the pharmacy today and ask about Prevnar 13. Learn more at Prevnar13.com. Don't get Prevnar 13 if you have had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with a weakened immune system may have a lower response to the vaccine. The most commonly reported side effect was pain at the injection site. For additional common side effects and full prescribing information, please call 1-866-694-9300 or visit Prevnar13.com.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
This is Derek Miller, speaking on business. I'm here with Ray Pickup, CEO of WCF Insurance. WCF is headquartered in Sandy, Utah, and is the largest workers' compensation insurer in Utah. Ray is here to discuss the importance of workplace safety and protecting your business and your employees.
WCF Insurance has been protecting Utah businesses and employees for 104 years. We've come a long way from where we started in 1917. Today, WCF is an innovative insurance provider with nationally offered products and services. We are committed to providing excellent customer service, building strong business partnerships, providing exceptional claims management, and keeping workers safe. Recently, we launched new lines of property and casualty insurance, including a business owner's policy for small businesses. On our website, we have hundreds of free workplace safety posters, videos, and other safety resources for employers and employees to use in their workplaces. We also have an entire team of safety professionals that can assist businesses with workplace safety. We see the impact on families and communities when employees and companies suffer from a workplace accident. Remember who's waiting for us to come home safely. Be careful out there.
Ray helped lead the way during the pandemic to keep Utah workers safe. Learn more about WCF Insurance and its insurance offerings at WCF.com. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Ricky Meese. First, we are closely following the events in Afghanistan this morning where at least 2 explosions occurred. The Pentagon reports there are multiple U.S. and civilian casualties, and these are being called coordinated attacks. Second, a boil order remains in place this morning for a large portion of Pleasant Grove. This comes after weekend test samples came back positive for E. coli. And third, more smoky air is headed into the state today from California. It will make the air quality dangerous for those in sensitive groups. We're looking at fair skies in downtown Salt Lake City, 81 degrees. Now back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL Newsradio.
Back to School with Dave Noriega and Debbie Dujanovic.
I want to remind you that we are broadcasting right now live on our KSL News Radio Facebook page. So if you're heading into the office, just go ahead and pull up our Facebook page and you can watch us. We're waving right now. At least I am, Dave. We've been enlightened over the last hour or so here on the Dave and Dujanovic show about things that we can do as parents to just really launch our kids off into the right foot as they head back to the classroom.
And let me just tell you, over the last year, one of the things that I think we haven't paid enough attention to is activity, is how much exercise our kids are getting. Because remember, when all the lockdowns happened, we shut down so much. We shut down sporting events. We shut down pickleball courts. I mean, of all places, we shut down pickleball courts in my city. And what that did is it forced us inside and it forced us in front of television. And all of a sudden, Netflix programming got better and Hulu and Disney Plus and video games. And now all of a sudden, we've fallen into bad habits.
Sally Williams is a health and PE curriculum specialist with the Canyon School District. Good morning.
Good morning. So glad to be with you. I share your pain with the pickleball court situation. It was so sad to see last spring. It was spring of 2020 when we had to tell all of our athletes, sorry, we aren't going to have sports this season. And I think coming out of the pandemic, there's definitely been some things that we've learned that have helped us to think about the importance of physical activity, especially for our young women and our adolescent girls.
So let's get down to business here, Sally. How can we get the kids off the couch and morph these couch potatoes into being more active starting tonight?
That's a great question, and one of my favorite topics. So I'm happy to share, and happy that you're spending time on your program to talk about this topic that I think is so relevant and so important. I think one of the main things is to find something fun. The research overwhelmingly shows that if you can find something that you enjoy doing that gets your heart rate up, you're more likely to keep doing it. And so I would say for parents, find what your kids are interested in. It doesn't have to necessarily be running or basketball. Those are traditional things that we typically think of in terms of physical activity, but it can be anything that gets their heart rate up. Find a friend to do it with, listen to some music, and make it fun. Then it's much more likely to become a routine and to continue to be a good habit and carry on throughout their lifetime.
Sally, that was so much truth, because I won't run for 5 minutes, but I'll play pickleball for hours. The time has no meaning to me. Another thing that you touched on, you said that this particularly affected our girls and our young women. Why did it affect that group so much?
It's an interesting question. Utah State has put out an article recently that talked about some of the differences between physical activity levels between adolescent males and females, and we know that females are less active than males, especially in Utah. 28% of boys compared to 14% of girls. And some of the things that they state in their article that I would agree with are, first and foremost, I think it's just it's been part of our culture. Girls don't tend to, if we're looking at this from a school-based thing, girls don't tend to like activities that are really competitive. They tend to choose activities that are more fitness related. Even though I play a lot of sports myself, I know in our school, the majority of females are going to choose classes that are fitness related or are non-competitive. And so we've offered at our schools, we're trying to offer a bigger variety of classes. Like we offer yoga now, and that's just been in the last couple of years. We also offer, there's some schools that are doing spin classes even, and that have fitness bikes. We have some great new facilities that our district has and our taxpayers have paid to build these new high schools and middle schools. And so we're lucky in our district to have some great facilities. I know that that's one of the things in the article from USU that they mentioned that is not helping with the girls and their activity levels. And so we're trying to just find as many ways possible as we can to really reach these girls and find things that, like I said, make it fun for them. They may shy away from being in a physical activity class or a PE class where they're having to play basketball with boys and they're getting pushed around and things like that. And so if we can do a variety of activities and expose them to more, then maybe they'll gravitate towards those. And then from the parent standpoint, I have two daughters that are middle school aged, and I worry about their activity levels and getting off of screens. And I know when they're exposed to things, then maybe they'll find something that they really enjoy doing that they will continue to do.
Sally
and
Williams,
then invite a friend.
Thank you so much for joining us. Sally Williams, the health and PE curriculum specialist with the Canyon School District. The big takeaway for me there is what she said is get your kids active by letting them do and encouraging them to do something that they really, really enjoy.
Yes. And you can just sample, right? Sample it, find something they like.
We used to play baseball in the front yard with the kids. I still have a mark on my ankle from one of their line drives. They hit it so hard. But we do that as a family. And then we also do, my husband and I would foot race each other. And then the kids would join in because they'd see mom and dad out there trying to beat each other to the finish line. Hey, look, we've got continuing developments in Afghanistan. Of course, we are following that closely in the newsroom. We know that Boyd Matheson is going to be hosting live call-ins from both Utah, or excuse me, I think Senator Romney may actually be in Utah, and Boyd will be speaking to him live, as well as
Senator Mike Lee, right? Both senators, we expect to hear from them. Boyd's show, Inside Sources, starts from 1 until 3, but we will continue to update you all day long here on KSL News Radio.